to be going into a time of Q&A now. If anyone has a question, you can just raise your hand and then we'll just pick from the crowd. Chris, she is the program manager for this program. She's going to be providing translation for questions if the fellows want to speak in Korean, then she'll be providing some translation. But does anyone, before we start, I will ask a question to the fellows, just to break the ice a little bit. What has been your favorite food in the States?
Yeah, Thai food. I like it.
I like Korean barbecue. Korea.
I make it food a little shorty and creamy, so I can eat. So sorry. So I like Korean food. It's cornmeal.
I like American food. But to be honest, it's kind of salty. But yeah, I like hamburgers. But my favorite one is Chipotle. Because it's cheap and yeah, it's cheap. Thank you.
All right, do we have a question from the audience? Yes. So he asked, what was the most difficult part of resettling in South Korea?
저 같은 경우는 남한에서 초등학교부터 초, 중, 고 다 나오고 지금 대학교 다니고 있거든요. 근데 제가 남한 사람들이랑 비교했을 때 저는 그냥 북한에서 태어났을 뿐이지 생김새나 뭐 이제는 15년을 살았으니까 생각하는 마인드나 뭐 문화를 접하는 태도 같은 게 하나도 다른 게 없어요. 그런데 제가 북한에서 왔다라고 하면 그 북한 사람에 대한 편견 어린 시각이 있어요. 왜냐면 남한의 사람들도 북한 사람을 볼 기회가 진짜 없거든요. 그리고 그 북한에서 왔다라는 걸 북한 사람들도 편견 받기 싫으니까 굳이 오픈하고 다니지도 않기 때문에 그들이 볼 수 있는 건 매체에서 말하는 북한 사람들에 한정되어 있어요. 그러니까 저는 가장 힘들었던 게 내가 내 모양으로 인해서 차별받을 수 있구나. 이게 제일 힘들었어요. 그냥 난 거기서 태어났을 뿐인데. 네.
So I attended elementary school, middle school, and high school, and now I'm attending college in South Korea currently. And comparing to just life in South Korea, I actually lived in South Korea for 15 years now. The fact that I was only born in North Korea, and I feel like everything's about the same. But when I revealed the fact that I was born in North Korea, people started to see me with a very different perspective, prejudice perspective. And a lot of South Korean people actually have never met an actual North Korean person. And many North Korean people who live in South Korea do not reveal the fact that they're actually from North Korea. And that's the reason why a lot of South Koreans are only exposed to the images of North Korean people that are shown in the media. And I think that was the most difficult thing for me, that I will be discriminated against just because of my hometown.
저 같은 경우에도 이제 저희 비슷한 말씀을 해주셨고 저도 동감을 하고 이제 저희 경험으로 얘기를 하면은 이제 문화 충격이 굉장히 컸어요. 왜냐면 이제 학년이 너무 다르고 국가의 어떤 민주주의나 사회주의 이런 것들이 너무 다르기 때문에 제도가 그 문화적 충격이 컸고 그리고 이제 저 이렇게 말투의 억양이 너무 달랐기 때문에 눈에 띄었고 그것으로 인해서 느끼는 어떤 그런 시선감들이 굉장히 많았어요. 좀 더 크게 나아가서 얘기를 하면 이제 저희가 남한에 가서 금방 이제 살다 보니까 인맥도 없고 이제 사실 뭐 그냥 한 살부터 출발하듯이 모든 걸 배워야 되고 경제도 없고 인맥도 없고 사실 문화도 안 통하고 이런 것들이 굉장히 힘들었던 것 같아요. 그냥 이제 저희 뭐 한국 분들도 미국이나 뭐 다른 나라에 가서 적응을 하려면 똑같이 어려움을 겪는 것처럼 것들이 힘들었던 것 같습니다.
For me, it's similar, and I think I agree with what Nikki said. In my experience, I think the culture shock aspect was really big for me, and I think it was just a very different environment for me, and just to be exposed to the democracy from after living in a socialist country. And I think the way that people also saw me because of my accent, North Korean accent, and also it's like when I came to South Korea, I had to start from very beginning. Like I was only like a 1-year-old and starting to learn everything all over again about economy and culture and everything. I think it will be the same as how South Korean people were to move to the U.S. and how they have to adjust to new culture. I think that'll be very similar.
Because we are like North Koreans in South Korea, it's kind of a minority in society. So whenever when I was senior in high school, I was trying to get a part-time job and went to the interview, and well, before the interview I got a call from the supervisor, and she asked me about my accent. So she asked me like, "Oh, are you foreigner?" And then I was like, "Yeah, I'm not a foreigner, I'm Korean." And then she was like, "Okay, you can come to the interview." And I went to the interview. She asked me the same question and told her like, I don't want to be honest, so I told her actually I defected North Korea like 4 years ago, and she said like, well, in this restaurant you have to communicate well with other staff, so maybe you cannot be accepted because communication is very important. So this kind of problem is for every North Korean people in South Korean society, so that's why North Korean people in North Korean defectors, they just rather not to say they're North Korean because they can get this kind of discrimination or stereotypes. Yeah.
All right, we'll take another question. Yeah.
Thank you. When you were a child in school, what did they teach you about the Korean War? And when you left North Korea, what was your reaction to learning about it outside of North Korea?
북한에서 자랄 때 한국 전쟁에 대해서 6.25에 대해서 어떻게 배웠는지, 그리고 북한에 나왔을 때 한국에 있었을 때 처음 한국 전쟁에 대한 사실을 알았을 때 여러분의 반응이 어땠는지.
북한에서 이제 역사는 한국과 완전 반대로 배우고, 그리고 왜냐면 북한에는 이제 김일성, 김정일, 김정은이 이렇게 통치를 해온 그 방식대로 역사를 배우기 때문에 한국 전쟁의 원인은 남조선, 그러니까 남한이 이렇게 주도를 해서 전쟁을 일으켰다라고 이제 배웠고, 그리고 한국에 와서 진실을 알게 됐을 때는 사실 한국 전쟁에 대한 진실보다는 그동안 북한 사회에 살고 있었던 제가 배우고 들었던 것들이 사실이 아니다. 그러니까 이 모든 것이 다 부정이 됐을 때 좀 더 많은 충격을 받았고, 그래서 사실 내가 과연 한국 사회에 잘 살아남을 수 있을까라는 생각을 들었던 거. 왜냐면 16년을 산 북한에서의 그 삶에서 제가 진실만 믿었던 것들이 한국에 와서 구성이 되니까 그 부분을 오히려 받아들이기 힘들었고, 그래서 사실 북한에서의 어떤 그런 세뇌 교육을 이제 제가 스스로 극복하고, 그러니까 올바른 생각으로 제 머릿속을 채우는 데까지 오랜 시간이 걸렸고, 그 과정이 저에겐 굉장히 힘들었던 것 같아요.
So in North Korea, when they teach history, it's the opposite of how they learn in South Korea. So of course, we learn the history through the eyes of the Kim regime, Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-un, Kim Jong-un. And we were actually taught that the reason how the Korean War started was because of South Korea, not North Korea. When I came to South Korea and learned the truth about the Korean War, actually it was actually more than just learning about the war. It was actually learning about everything that I learned in North Korea was quite the opposite. And when I actually found that truth, I think that was more of a bigger shock for me. And I think it made me think that will I be able to really live in South Korean society and be able to adjust to the life here? I had lived in North Korea for the past 16 years, and to kind of be denied of everything that I had learned in North Korea, that was all false. I think for me to just kind of change from the brainwash perspective to the new life in South Korea, that was very difficult for me.
저도 너와 똑같이 지원을 받아왔고 이제 한국이 먼저 북한을 쳤다라고 하는데 저희가 한국에 왔을 때는 이제 북한이 급습으로 이제 습격을 했기 때문에 굉장히 많은 이제 청소년들도 총을 가지고 나와서 싸워야 되고 굉장히 많은 희생양이 있었다라는 그런 어떤 이제 증거들을 봤어요. 제가 한국에서 그 유해 발굴 프로그램이라는 프로그램에 참여를 해서 실제로 이제 전쟁이 일어났던 거지에 가서 이제 유해를 발굴하고 막 탄피 그리고 이제 그분들이 신었던 신발 뭐 이런 것들을 이제 발굴을 하면서 굉장히 이제 좀 이렇게 감정이 굉장히 이상했어요. 왜냐면 이제 저는 북한에서 태어났고 북한 사람이지만 한국에서 살아가고 한국의 신분을 가졌으니까 사실 뭐 누가 맞고 틀리다를 떠나서 굉장히 슬펐던 것 같아요. 그러니까 한 민족이고 이제 한 나라의 사람들이 그렇게 그냥 자기들끼리 이제 싸우고 많은 희생양들을 얻은 것에 대해서 굉장히 슬픈 마음이 컸어요. 그래서 앞으로는 이제 통일을 앞두고 있지만 어떤 전쟁이나 이런 필요성가 아닌 굉장히 좀 이제 현명하고 비핵화로 평화주의적으로 나가는 그런 길로 통일이 이루어졌으면 좋겠다는 바람이 있습니다.
I was taught the same way that no one was taught in North Korea, and of course, I learned that it was South Korea who first attacked North Korea. And when I came to South Korea, of course, I learned that it was actually North Korea that attacked South Korea first. And then what really touched me was that the fact that a lot of young people in South Korea had to go because North Korea had a suddenly attacked South Korea, so they had to be drafted, and there are a lot of huge sacrifice on the South Korean side. And when I was attending high school in South Korea, I actually went to help out with the POW, the course exhumation work in South Korea. And I think that experience really touched me, and it made me really, really sad. The fact that this one country had a civil war, they had to actually fight each other, and so many people died because of that, so many people had to be sacrificed. That made me very sad.
Another question? Question here.
For me, it's like, yeah, that is really interesting question. Thank you. And so it's in South Korea, and both North Korea and South Korea, they all have this kind of unique education system for unification because, but it's kind of different. In North Korean side, they wanted to make the Korean Peninsula same as North Korean system, but South Korea, they also kind of thinking about that way, like they wanted to change North Korea like them, so that's why it is not easy to have a conversation because they want to do different things. For me, it's been more than 70 years. North Korea and South Korea separated, so I think North Korea is also changing and South Korea is also changing. So if we unify, there's gonna be a huge cultural problems or political problems. So people in North Korea, some of them still supporting the government and some of them is not. So maybe it's gonna be a problem because, for example, like Germany, maybe they unified very rare, I guess, but still like a lot of problems are still remain in Germany society. So for me, we kind of have to prepare the unification, but the reality is like we stop talking each other and the government, both sides, they don't really interested about unification. Only people in North Korea are suffering from the government. So they still like South Korean government and North Korean government still arguing each other. So for me, I really want to be unified, but the reality is not the same. So I'm kind of sad for the fact. So that's why I can't believe it. Like we're gonna be unified. So yeah.
통일이 될지 안 될지는 중요한 문제가 아닌 것 같아요. 통일은 저희 의사와 상관없이 될 거라고 저는 생각하고, 그래서 통일이 됐을 때 과연 우리가 북한 사람들에 대해서 어떤 입장을 가지고 있느냐가 되게 중요할 것 같아요. 통일이 된 이후에 그들을 위해서 저희가 아무 노력도 안 했다라는 것을 저희 고향 친구들이 알게 됐을 때 좀 많이 실망할 것 같아요. 그렇지만 저희가 지금 이렇게 고향을 위해 노력하고 또 여기 오신 분들도 그 이야기를 듣기에 왔고, 그래서 사람으로서 최소한의 책임을 하는 게 아닐까. 그리고 그렇게 갇힌 사람들을 위해서 목소리를 내는 사람이 있다는 것, 그것은 굉장히 지금은 너무 힘든 곳이 있지만 굉장히 희망이 있다라고 저는 생각을 하고, 그 일을 먼저 선도하는 게 지금까지는 저는 미국이었다라고 생각을 하고, 그렇지만 앞으로는 어떻게 될지 모르겠어요. 그래서 저는 통일을 준비하는 게 중요하다고 생각을 하고, 네, 그렇게 생각을 합니다.
So I don't think it's a question of whether the reunification will happen or not. I believe that reunification will happen regardless of whether we want it or not. But I think it's important for us to be prepared. I think the important matter is for us to be prepared for when the reunification actually happens and how we are going to be treating the reunification when it actually happens. If we didn't put any efforts into preparing for that, I'm always sad, and our friends in North Korea will be very disappointed. I think we will have to continue to put in the efforts and work hard. And I know that you are also here to hear the stories of North Korean people. And I think if we continue to work hard and continue to put in that efforts for the day of reunification, and I think if the North Korean people do realize that there are people who's being vocal about them, who's really raising their voices on behalf of them, I think there is hope. And I know that up till now, it's been the US who has done that work, maybe in the forefront, but I think in the future, maybe that will also change. So I believe that rather than the reunification itself, I think how we're going to prepare for the reunification is more important.
All right, we have like 5 to 7 more minutes. So it's like 2 more questions. I'll take a question from this side, and then I can take a question from this side. So, yeah.
First, I'd like to thank you for coming to talk about your breakthroughs and getting those things that through. My question is, in America, we talk a lot about the propaganda, how much technical information that they have in North Korea. How did your families and you know, or at least suspect that you're likely to be better outside of North Korea? You guys, is it generally well known there that your country is unusual? How did your family even know about how to go about escaping such a society where talking about is so difficult?
저 같은 경우에는 제가 저의 의지나 결심으로 탈북한 게 아니에요. 부모님이 원하셔서 하게 됐는데 저희 어머니가 북한보다 남한이 더 나은 세상이라고 생각을 하신 이유는 이모하고 삼촌이 미리 와 계시고 그리고 저희가 한국 영화나 드라마 같은 걸 좀 종종 봤어요. 그렇기 때문에 북한보다 밖의 세상이 더 나은 세상이라고 알게 되었던 것 같아요. 네.
So for me, it wasn't actually my will and my decision to defect North Korea. It was actually my parents who decided to defect. And the reason why we actually knew that the outside world would be better than North Korea was because we already had our aunt and uncle who were already in South Korea. And we had also seen some South South Korean TV shows when we are in North Korea. That's how we learn about the outside world.
You also know that South Korean dramas are changing things in North Korea. Did you?
제 경험으로 얘기를 하면 저희 집은 이제 그 뭐 북한이 아닌 다른 나라에 대한 정보를 뭐 가면 더 잘 산다 뭐 이런 것들을 몰랐어요. 그리고 이제 그냥 북한에서 살 수 없을 정도로 굉장히 이제 끝자락에 위험에 놓였고 그래서 이제 탈북을 했는데 사실 탈북민들이 굉장히 많다 보니까 저희 홈랜드에서는 이제 탈북민들이 탈북을 했다고 하면 가서 잘 되길 바란다 그리고 가서 잘 살 거다라는 희망이 있어요. 왜인지 이유는 모르죠. 정보 같은 것들이 많이 없으니까. 그래서 이제 저희 부모님도 나올 수밖에 없어서 나왔고 사실 그런 것들을 북한에서 알았다면 제가 그런 경험을 안 했겠죠. 저와 같은 경험을. 그래서 이제 한국에 나와보고 저희가 또 이제 북한에 또 연락을 하고 이렇게 하다 보면 사실 그 사람들도 이제 더 잘 산다는 사실만 알지 그 중간에 이제 어려움도 있고 이렇다는 건 정말 모르거든요. 그러면 답이 됐을까요?
So in my experience, we actually didn't have a lot of information about the outside world. We didn't know that outside world, you have a better life there. We had to defend North Korea because it got really dangerous for our family. That's why we had to escape North Korea. And even inside North Korea, we have heard of so many North Korean defectors. And when we hear about people defecting, we just hope and we just wish them good luck. We we don't have any information whether they're gonna have a better life or not. We just wish them the best. But for us, it was just the situation. Just the only option that we had was to defect. If I knew that it would be better in the outside, I don't think I would have gone through the same experience that I had. But even after I had came to South Korea, when we try to call and contact people inside North Korea, they do know that a lot of people outside of North Korea do have better life there, but they don't really know that there's difficulties after defection, on the way to the journey of defection, there's danger there. They don't know that.
Yeah, actually, so I really wanted to emphasize that in North Korea, even though everyone is from North Korea, depending on where you live, you have very different experiences. So the areas closer to the border, you have more information that is smuggled in through like brokers and things like that. The further south you are, it's more and more difficult to get information from the outside world. Yeah, and at the same time, I think something that people are often surprised by is that North Koreans are able to communicate with their families inside, but it is very dangerous and also very expensive. You have to go through a broker, give them a lot of money, and the broker smuggles in a Chinese cell phone. You catch Chinese cell phone airwaves at the top of a mountain to talk to your family. It is a very long and dangerous process, and a lot of people say that they never go back to the same place twice because of the risk of being caught, but you are able to communicate with your family and even send money and information back to your family, even though COVID has been very difficult in recent years. We'll take one last question from this side here. Yes.
What do you miss most about North Korea or living there?
저는 이제 가장 그리운 것들이 사람인 것 같아요. 제가 이제 태어난 것이고 특별히 이제 고향이라는 건 누구나 마음속에 이제 특별히 자리 잡는 거잖아요. 근데 이제 거기서 이제 보냈던 몇 년들이 가장 행복한 추억이고 그래서 그 저희 친구들과 가족들이 어떤 생활을 하고 있고 뭐 군대를 갔는지 결혼을 했는지 그런 것들이 가장 그리운 것 같아요.
What I miss the most is the people. It's my homeland, it's my hometown, and the hometown is a special place for everybody. And the childhood that I had in North Korea was just very special. I had a very happy childhood. And I'm just wondering, my friends and my extended family member who are still in North Korea, how they're living there, whether they got enlisted in the military, whether they got married. That's what I miss.
저는 그 오기 전에 이제 사귀던 여자친구가 있었는데 그 친구가 가장 그립고 그리고 사실 북한에서 힘든 삶을 빼면은 친구들과의 추억이 굉장히 깊었어요. 그래서 함께 뭐 축구, 농구, 뭐 수영, 뭐 이렇게 계속 같이 있고 함께 좀 놀았던 그런 시간들이 많이 그립고 그 친구들을 지금 다시 볼 수 없다는 거, 다시 만날 수 없다는 거 그게 조금 슬프고요. 그래서 한국에 왔을 때 사실 가장 힘들었던 거는 그 친구들이 계속 꿈에 나오는 게 조금 힘들었어요.
I actually had a girlfriend that I was dating in North Korea, so I do miss her. But aside from the difficult life in North Korea, I think it's the memories that I had made with my friends. When we were playing soccer, we were swimming together in the river, and just our playing time together. The fact that I can never see them again, I can never be with them again, that's what maybe made my life, resettlement life in South Korea very difficult. And it was very difficult because they kept on hurting my dreams, my friends.
저도 두 분이 다 말을 했지만 저도 15년, 제가 북한에서 산 게 10년이고 한국에서 산 게 15년인데 15년이 지나도 가장 그리운 건 가족하고 내가 자라면서 함께 했던 친구들이에요. 보통은 저희가 북한에서 태어났지 않았다면 보통은 볼 수 있잖아요. 근데 볼 수 없기 때문에 갈 수 없기 때문에 고향에 있는 그 사람들이 더 그립고 더 만나고 싶어요. 그리고 네.
So the other two I already have mentioned, but for me it's the same. I lived in North Korea for 10 years, I lived in South Korea for 15 years, but even after 15 years, I still miss the friends that I had in North Korea. If I wasn't born in North Korea, I could have just gone back and try to meet up with them and try to go see them, but because I can't, I think that's what makes it more difficult. That's what makes me miss them even more.
For me, what I miss the most is my family. So I have so my father passed away when I was 1 year old, and so mostly my mom and I have 2 sisters, 2 older sisters, and one is in South Korea and one is still in North Korea. But she got tortured like 4 months because of our escape, because of my mom and I escaped North Korea. So basically the Norwegian government wants her confess herself that guilty, but if she continually insists that she's not guilty, they're gonna just keep torture her until she confess. But she never do that. So, but eventually she got a mental illness because of the tortures. So that's why she was released by the government. So for me and my mom, it's really hard to accept. So if I'm in North Korea, I can take care of her, and my mom take care of her. So for my family, that is our painful, so we cannot call her, we cannot take care of her. So that is the saddest thing for North Korean people. I think most of them have a family in North Korea, but nowadays it's because of COVID and because of the government changing, the Kim Jong-un, after Kim Jong-un took over the North Korea, everything was just stopped and getting worse. So it's almost impossible to escape North Korea anymore. So for me, it's I'm so afraid of that I cannot see my sister forever. So yeah, and I also miss another people. So my uncle died after I defected, so I couldn't see him. So it's kind of part that I still struggling with. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Can everyone give them a round of applause? Here at U of I. Actually, one last thing is, anyone has any, I know there were a lot more questions and I wish we could have gone to all of them. We're gonna have a virtual event with the fellows on October 25th. if you did the survey at the beginning, you should have been able to you'll get connected to us through email, and then we'll send out information about the virtual event on 25th, and you could be the first ones in to get your questions in, and we'll get your questions answered. We'll also stick around a little bit at the end so you can come up and just all chat together. I do want to invite the team here at U of I. They've been so gracious in hosting us, and they're going to share a little bit about